Let's fire this up. First and foremost, this is one of, I think, the greatest Americans that continues to communicate with me regardless of how shitty of a friend I am. And as he was reminding me that Kyle Lamb texts me this morning. He texted me this morning while I was driving. That's why I didn't text you back. But he says that I don't communicate him on a regular basis with him. But welcome to the show, Kyle. Welcome to the show, Kyle Lamb.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. And I give you a lot of crap, but I know you're a busy dude, man. I mean, we're all busy, and we're cheering from the sidelines. I guess not really the sidelines because we're kind of in the game too. But man, you guys are crushing it.
Oh, well, welcome to Free Range American, and we're here to talk about you, Kyle. We're here to talk about you. I was going to
say 50% of the stuff you do, it comes out positive. So that's a pretty good batting average.
What are the three P's?
HIV.
No, Evan's got his 3 P's.
Got my 3 P's, Kyle, that I've been disseminating for the last month. You have to maintain your positive attitude. You've got to maintain professional demeanor, and you got to be polite, because in times like this, in our company infrastructure and ecosystem, I think you got to distill it down to those 3 things. You have to be graded against those criteria. And with all the negative shit that is floating around out in our society and the global society, it's like, man, keep your head down. We're thankful to have jobs. Be positive, professional, and polite. Let's concentrate on the task at hand and not get caught into the white noise bullshit that's kind of floating around out there. I got elk to hunt in September, Kyle. The only thing I'm thinking about right now is driving an arrow through the heart of a giant beast that I can put on my table. That's the only thing outside of business and family. That's the only thing I think about.
Yeah, and when that elk starts bugling and you're like 40 yards away, you're going to be pissing your pants and trying to keep that arrow on the rest. It is amazing. There's nothing better than archery elk hunting. There's nothing. No. I mean, well, there's a couple things better, but by yourself with this animal, that's the best thing going, man. It's amazing. Have you killed an elk with your bow yet? Oh, dude, it is unbelievable.
I got a cow back in December of 2018, just an opportunity hunt on my way home, and to fill the freezer, which was a pretty cool experience, but it's nothing like what I'm expecting when the opportunity comes to hunt a bull.
One of the things that we've always said, or I've always said, is if you go elk hunting with a bow, even if you don't kill anything, you're going to have a better hunt than if you go with the rifle. Now, I love to rifle hunt.
Why?
I love to rifle hunt.
Why do you think you're going to have a better time with the bow?
Because if you have any experiences with these animals, even if you don't sling an arrow, it's going to be better because it's going to be so much more. First of all, you're probably going to be hunting in the rut. You said you're going to go in September. So they're going to be rutting hard. If you can get into them, I drew a Montana tag, so I'm excited to get out there with my bow. I'm hunting with an old buddy of mine, and then we're gonna hunt together for a week, and then we're gonna bring some Wounded Warrior guys out there and hunt with those cats, and do whatever we got to do to try to get them to kill a critter too. So yeah, it's just better experiences. I can still tell you the very first time a bull came in when I had my bow, I had like a 6 Black Rifle coffee crap ready to go. And we'd hump about 3 miles up this drainage. I was in Idaho out there by, where Lead Ore's at.
Oh yeah.
And get up in there. My buddy starts calling, and this bull comes in, and he's hot to trot. And I'm crowning, dude. I got to take a crap.
little turtle head poking out.
Oh my goodness, I'm crowning, And I didn't have Evan around to help me out. I know that I hear a lot of stories about him and Carl. out there in the river in Idaho. And, dude, that bull came in and I was a mess. I was shaking, and the bull he was 20, 25 yards away from me. He was blowing snot and he was bugling, and it was going through my chest like an air horn. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck in the open. I'm like, good, there he is. He come running in. And, of course, he sees me and he's like, whoa, what's that? Whoa. He does his bark, and when he does his bark, actually I just did one from a moose, so that doesn't make sense. But, he did an elk bark and he was gone. And the first thing I did was run over, drop trow and crap. And then I was like, my buddy goes, what happened? I go, dude, he was right there. I could have shot him, but you actually have to have an arrow on the rest in order to shoot at an elk. So, dude, you're going to have a blast. It's going to be fun. I mean, the elk hunting is just, it's amazing. The elk, they haven't been quarantined either.
Right.
They've been doing a good job. They're still hanging out with each other and talking and violating that 6-foot BS. And they're still acting like normal animals.
Yeah, they're still acting like normal animals. How is the quarantine? And when I say this, everybody asks that question. How's it affecting you? But really, like, what have you done? What's really changed in your life since this? Because you strike me as a guy that really, outside of teaching your courses, this has not really affected your day-to-day family life all that much, because you guys live in a fairly remote area. You spend a lot of time with your family. Are you still spending a lot of time with, Lucas, or is he? I'm going to tell you this, Evan. This is one of the most positive things that's happened to me in the last 5 years. Really?
Wow.
Yeah, because what it did was it was a reality check.
Yeah.
Because we get on that hamster wheel, and you know what I'm talking about, because your little legs are running on that thing every day, and Logan is right behind you, and his legs are going, and you're falling down and skinning your knees and jumping back up and getting right back on the hamster wheel. You don't even think, you're like, I got to get back on this wheel. So when this thing started, we were actually, my wife, I had been filming in North Carolina. You're familiar with Daniel Winkler.
Oh, yeah.
So Daniel Winkler and I were doing some filming for a project. We have a new knife that we're launching with Case for the Hero series. It's going to be launched here pretty soon.
So hold on. We're going to have to bookmark that so we can come back to it. So you're doing a product with Case Knives, Daniel Winkler, and VTAC?
Not
Is that
VTAC,
correct?
Kyle Lamb, yeah.
Kyle Lamb.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
got it.
So, which, I mean, it is really VTAC, but this is me doing this stuff.
Right.
So we filmed. We had a great time. I got to forge. I used a hammer machine. I've never used one of those before, and I'm forging with Daniel Winkler, who is, I mean, he's like the top dude, not in the country, but in the world,
Yeah.
Right. So we do that, jump in the truck. I head over and I shoot some guns with my buddy up there in North Wilkesboro. Get up the next morning. I drive up to Virginia, link up with my wife. We're going to hang out with the kids a little bit there with our grandkids. And they say, oh, there's this coronavirus thing going. And, we're thinking about shutting down the school. And we're going, what? And then the next day they said, yeah, my grandson's school is shut down. And we said, okay, roger that. So we took both grandkids and their new puppy, and I had Trigger. You've met Trigger, my blue heeler. She was with me on this road trip when we were filming and everything. She got to hang out in Forge. She's over here laying down on a bear having a dream right now. She's chasing chickens or something. So we loaded up the grandkids the next morning, and I had my grandson in my truck, and Melinda had our granddaughter in the other truck. We each had a dog, and we headed to Tennessee. Got back, and things started falling off real quick. People telling us, oh, we're canceling this, we're canceling that.
Right.
And I would like to say postpone, but it's not, because if you got a VTAC class on the schedule and you cancel it, guess what? It's gone, because we're already booked up. If you want to reschedule, we'll do that next year or whatever. But I come home and I'm thinking, man, what am I going to do? I got grandkids and a forge. I've been firing up this forge a little bit. Yeah. And dude, it's let me tell you this, I can survive without traveling.
Yeah.
And I'm much happier. I'm much healthier. I'm eating better because my wife is cooking, chow every day. She's cooking 2 or 3 meals a day here. It's Lucas works in the warehouse, so I see Lucas every day.
Man.
He and I have been hanging out more. We're foraging and doing that. So my daughter then ends up coming. She works for the government, so she ends up coming out here for a couple of weeks with her husband. So we hang out, and it's just been amazing. My grandson's been shooting his BB gun, and I would rather do that than shoot. I mean, it's fun to hang out with him and do that. So I think it's been more positive than negative. And what I've tried to do, and we started to talk about this, I guess, in the little pre-talk there, but I've been trying to not watch the news because all it does is piss you off. And then I'm letting everybody kind of distill this down until they've worked out what's fake and what's real. And then once we find out what's real, I've got guys that tell me, well, here's what's going on. Okay, I'll listen to you, but that takes 2 minutes and I don't have to listen to any other news. I mean, I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
So, and now that I'm foraging, dude, there's so many awesome videos out there to watch of people foraging and learning different techniques. And guys that forge are a little bit different than the tactical community. Tactical community, there's a lot of people that are always dick measuring and pissing in corners trying to mark their territory. In foraging, it's not like that. Dudes are like, oh, here's what I'm doing. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah, you just sent me that photo of that hammer.
That thing is
it's
awesome.
Epic, man. It's so epic. Yeah. We'll get Dave to throw the photo of that for the video on YouTube. But I'm assuming you're making all of that yourself. What setup do you have right now?
Okay, so first of all, you've heard of Grinder Switch Railroad? Switch Railroad, always running on time. Charlie Daniels.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of him? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Logan hasn't. He probably, Logan. He's a famous country guy. He wrote Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah, I've heard of him once or twice. Yeah.
So Grinder Switch Railroad runs through our property. So Lucas and I, we went down there to film. We're making a little film for Stay in the Fight Foundation, which is a new 501c3 that Melinda and I started to help out people, not just veterans, but human beings,
Right.
So we're making a little film down there. We're walking along. We'd get done. And I said, man, we need to find some railroad spikes down here because we need to hammer some out, and not into knives. I'm not really into the whole railroad spike into a knife. That's cool, but I want to do something different. I'm thinking I can make some cool gun hooks to hang stuff off the mantle or whatever.
Right.
And we see this big 1.75 inch piece of solid bar stock, and they use it as a stringer, like to connect the tracks together. And I don't really know what it does, but all I know is that this one was from the previous railroad, and they had just thrown this crap down in the ditch. Well, the ditches are our property, so it's not like I'm stealing from the railroad. They threw this stuff out of the ditch, and I walk down, and I go, check this out. And Lucas goes, yeah, I found that. I used that in some pictures for kind of a rustic look. And I said, I pick it up. This thing's like 6 foot long or whatever. And we towed it back to his truck, and he brings some railroad spikes back, and we also bring this piece of metal. So I started doing some math to figure out how much I would need to cut of that to make 2 pounds, 1.5 pounds, a pound, and so on. And I ended up cutting out a 2 pound piece, and I made my first hammer. That hammer I sent you a picture of, that's the first hammer I ever made. And I did that with my son-in-law, and we beat that thing into submission. And then I made that handle out of ash. And then my wife took it and she burned it. She started it on fire, because that's what Melinda does. On fire. And, I was thinking when you were here, we had that bread pudding. You remember that?
Yeah, that stuff was great.
And she hasn't made that. I'm going to tell her she needs to make a big batch of that today, because it's, unbelievable. So she burned this handle, and then she scraped it. We worked on this together. She scraped it down with a bronze brush or a brass brush. And then while it's still smoking, she puts beeswax on it, which, anything made with beeswax is cool. So she puts beeswax on there, and it sucks the ashes and open grain wood. So it sucks this beeswax in there. And then she takes it and she sprays it with a sealer. And then we let that dry. And then she took that cream filler stuff. That's what gave it that. It's sterling silver cream filler. So she wiped that all on there. And that goes into the open pores. And then she wipes it all off until it had that look that you saw. And then she took it and she coated it again with that spray sealer and then lacquer. And it's beautiful. I mean,
yeah, it is beautiful.
It's like a piece of art. The handle is, and the normally you say the head looks better than the handle, but that handle actually is amazing. So she's got like 6 of those she's working on right now for me. I've been forging my balls off, dude.
That's awesome.
So I've got a bunch of tomahawk heads, another head I did for a hammer, and she's doing all the handles for me.
Right.
So it's been fun. So the forging kit I've got an anvil. I've actually got 2 anvils, one old one I haven't used yet. And then I've got a new one. I've got a forge, a chili forge. I think it's called a habanero or something like that. It's one of their 2-burner forges. You don't need anything.
How
really.
big is that?
Oh,
How big is it?
It's probably 16 inches long, maybe a little bit, maybe 24 inches long by probably 12 inches high. And
so it's not that big.
No, it's just a double burner. So I've got, there's 2 nozzles that come out of the top.
Right.
Those go down to the propane tank and that's it. So we're actually building a forge right now, a new building that's going to have a workshop on both sides, one for Melinda, one for me. Mine will be the dirty side and hers will be the side for doing leather work and sewing and wood, clean wood stuff. All the dirty stuff will take place on my side. And we built a big overhang on that. So it's, I'll be able to have a forge and keep it set up like that. Cause that's one of the troubles now is this is really dirty stuff to do. So I pull this stuff out of the barn. You've seen my big brown barn.
Yeah.
We pull everything out of there. Wilmot Grinders, that's who I got my grinder from. And that dude was in the unit. So
seriously?
Yeah. So, Chris Williams was one of our TSE guys. He made all of like our surveillance equipment.
Right.
This guy is I'd like to say he's one of the smartest dudes that I know, but he's at least in the top 2. Right. So Mike Hawkins, Chris Williams, they give each other a run for the money. So he started gunsmithing and then he decided to get into making knives. And then he said, I can't find a grinder that I like. So he started making grinders and now he sells thousands of these grinders. They're just amazing. It's a 2-inch by 72-inch belt grinder. They're amazing. Right. And that dude's a veteran, man. He's crushing it. I mean, he's absolutely crushing it.
Is he still in North Carolina?
Yeah. He's right there at Fort Bragg.
Okay.
He used to run a company called Blind Hog Custom Gunsmithing.
What was that? Oh, custom gunsmithing?
Yeah. He built my guns for me, my pistols for when I was competing. And he did a spectacular job, but he's like, yeah, guns, people, they send you their guns and then they want them back in like a certain amount of time. And he's like, I can't take the stress. So he started making knives. And I've actually adopted his mindset on this forging because I've had a lot of people already, they've seen pictures of some of the stuff I've done. They're like, hey, can you make me? And I'm like, initially I told this cop, yeah, I can make that. What are you thinking? And then I went, oh, why did I do that? This isn't fun anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So I call him up and he goes, no, we found another guy. He's got something. I go, okay, good. Whew, okay. Stress is off. And then he calls me back a day later. He goes, that guy didn't have any in stock, so I want to get that one from you. And I go, oh man, too late. I already learned a lesson from some cops that ordered one, and I told them that I'd make one, and I don't do that anymore. And he's like, well, wait a minute, that's me. And I go, yeah, no kidding, bro. So now what I'm doing is these will eventually be sold, and all the proceeds are going to go to the Stay in the Fight Foundation.
Right.
100% of the proceeds. So, I actually have a friend of mine that has said he will buy the first one. There's this guy named Fred Eichler. You may have heard of him.
Yep.
He's kind of a big deal in the archery.
Kind of a big deal in
the archery world. He called me. He goes, bro. He goes, I thought you were full of crap. And then I saw one of these pictures and he goes, I'm buying the first one. And I told him, okay, here's the deal. So I'm going to get all of these ready, send him all the photos and let him pick what he wants. and then we'll put some out there for other people if they want to buy one for the money to go to this Stay in the Fight Foundation. And we've been able to help several people so far, so it's been kind of cool.
So I'm curious to hear it from you, exactly why you like forging so much. Like, what is about working with metal in your hands as you go through it that really does it for you?
You know, I'm going to tell you, Logan, it's not all about working with my hands. It's more to me, it's I don't want to get all artistic or autistic, whichever one it is, but to me, it's about looking at that piece of metal and seeing what you can make out of it. And somehow I've been able to do that. I just made a spontoon. Do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. So a spontoon is when you take it's like a tomahawk head, but it's got an arrow on one side or a point on one side.
Right.
And it's kind of funny. I just worked on that. I took 2 pounds of that piece of metal that I found, and Melinda looked at a picture. She goes, I said, which one do you want me to make? And she picked one hammer and she picked one axe head, and she picked the one that had the arrowhead. So I said, Roger that. And I went out there and I beat this thing and beat on it. And then I was talking to my buddy who happens to be an Indian, like a feather wearing Indian, not a dot wearing Indian, and true half-breed Native American cat from up in Michigan, where I learned that they're not allowed to buy seeds for their garden right now because of the Democratic governor douchebag S. So this dude, he's a former military guy. He just retired, and his name is Sean Menard. Awesome cat. And he goes, well, when you get to forging, I need you to make me one of these spontoons. And I'm like, bro. And I sent him a picture of that. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, yeah, man, it must be meant for you because I already made this thing. And now I talked to my Indian bro, and that's what he wants. Anyway, so back to your question, Logan. The very first time I forged was with my son. And I'm standing there staring into this forge, looking at this piece of metal. And all I'm thinking about is that piece of metal and it being the right color. And at the time, I didn't even know what the right color was. And I probably still don't know, but I'm getting better. And the only thing on my mind was staring at that piece of metal. There was nothing, and I was thinking of what I was going to do with that metal when I got it out of there. But I catch myself now, same thing. If I'm looking into that forge and my mind is completely clear. And most things that I do, my mind is not clear, whether I'm writing or I'm doing a class or, doing other stuff. My mind is just all over the map.
So now, it's almost meditative for you in a way. Oh,
you can spend hours sweating and hammering and doing this, and you have no idea time. I have no concept of time when I'm doing this. And this is just one of the things that I do. I also shoot on my own, which the same thing happens when I'm working on something. When I'm go hunting, I have no idea. And one of the things for this quarantine that I've really liked, I know that today is Wednesday. And I know that only because I received an email from you that said I had to be on this podcast on Wednesday. So I was like, oh crap, when is Wednesday? Oh, okay, that's when this is. I'm telling you, dude, the quarantine has changed my life, and I'm going to maintain it. Some of my buddies have said I was a social distancer anyway.
Right.
And really, I kind of am. I mean, I teach classes and do that, but I've always kind of kept my distance from, I'm not like a big crowd person or anything like that. I love people. I just don't want them to get real close to me because then they can hit you or, shoot you or whatever. But, I've always been kind of that way, but now it's legal and it's fun.
Right.
I mean, I'm loving it. I don't agree with what our country is doing, but, man, we're going to see some interesting things happen. I think once the quarantine is lifted, I think first of all, our court systems are going to be tied up for the next 2 years. Dealing with, the violation of our Constitution. And I really hope we let a whole bunch of bad guys that have been rolled up and have not had speedy trials or due process. I hope they let them go too, because we're violating everybody's rights, our rights, their rights. It's crazy. And I don't want to be negative, but this is weird.
Yeah, I would agree. I think from my perspective, it's really hard. I think we were talking about it before this, which is, chopping through the white noise and trying to figure out what's fact, what's fiction, what type of information you can take in and truly make informed decisions for yourself, your family, your business, your community. There's just a lot of negativity out there, which I'm trying to do my best to just tune out, just altogether tune out of the news. I'm like you. I've got a few friends that I talk to that are fairly well connected and dialed in on that end, and then I don't even have to listen to anything else, right? I'm not tuning into a wide variety of podcasts or even information on it. I understand it in principle, and I understand how to avoid the circumstances where I might put myself in, or my family or my company in harm's way. And that's like just in harm's way in general, right? It could be from the COVID virus, or it could be from the government. We applied for a good example of that. We applied for the government funding, and we decided, we're not going to take it. And I just didn't want, one, we are approved for it, but two, I don't trust what the fucking post effects of this are going to be. And the dirty political games that people are going to play, the leverage the G is going to have if you do take, portions of the funding, and the G is so effed up right now. Like every one of these guys is concentrated on the wrong thing. It seems like you can't make heads or tails. There's a few good guys, I obviously, I think Dan Crenshaw is. I talked to Dan quite a bit, and man, even him. I was talking to him the other day, and he unloaded for 10 minutes on just the corrupt, negative, misinformed, ignorant, selfish, ego-driven shit that he has to deal with in that foggy bottom swamp.
Yeah, and it's the thing is, it's always they've always tried to do that. I think that we're letting them do it now, because back when Alexander Hamilton was trying to get the Federalist movement going, and they got it moving pretty good, their plan was, well, we're going to pick the people who are aristocrats because they're smart people.
Yeah.
And they know what's best. So of course we're going to pick the Tidewater aristocrats. Right. I'm talking about the Tidewater versus the Piedmont folks in Virginia there. So we're going to pick them. We're going to put them in there, and then they're just going to stay because these people are aristocrats. And if you people out there don't know what that means, it means like the bro with the money who's in charge. And I'm going to tell you, that didn't fly. We said no, bro, and Aaron Burr went so far as to kill Alexander Hamilton, which I don't know, is probably a good call, but I shouldn't say that because I don't know Alexander Hamilton. I just know the play, and the play is kind of, there's nothing historically correct about the play. The play is awesome. You don't say. We went to that. Melinda and I went back really? before it was famous, before they started dissing the Americans. Right. And I was like, wow, I had no idea that was part of history. Oh, it's not. I mean, it's nothing. It had nothing to do with history. So we banished the Federalists then, and that's when the Republican Party, and a different Republican Party than we see today, but that's when that really got up and kicking and going there with Thomas Jefferson and Madison, Monroe. These guys were different than the other side, even though Madison had been, Madison helped write the Federalist Papers. And then he's like, whoa, I'm on second thought, I think that might not be right. And we've went that way. And now we're trying to circle back where big government, the administrative side of the government has started to run things. And how can we have unelected officials? I mean, elected officials, I understand how they have the capability to make laws, but we have the CDC, FDA.
Yeah.
My favorite is what do you call them? The EPA.
Right.
None of those guys should be able to make laws. And now during this time, your buddies over there at NSSF, they've been busy because what's happening? You've got some bureaucrat, and if you don't know what a bureaucrat is, it's somebody that sits around and makes laws and has no right to do it, really.
Right.
They've enacted laws to shut down gun ranges and to shut down facilities that are selling guns, and they have no right to do that. So then when the NSSF gets involved, they go to the people that actually can make decisions and go, hey, by the way, did you know that Joe Schmedlap over there is making these decisions? And they go, whoa, wait a minute, we never said that. And they go, okay, roger that, tear that piece of paper up. No gun shops can stay open or whatever. Have you been read into what happened in Colorado with the whole writing a brief to shut down Bighorn Gun Shop?
No, I haven't heard anything about it. Tell us about it.
So now this is the Kyle Lamb version. So
sure.
It's embellished good for your listening pleasure. All right. So there's these we'll call them chaps. That way the Brits like this too. So there's these three chaps that run this gun company, Bighorn Guns or something like that.
I know exactly those guys. I know who their company is. Okay.
So you know them. I don't know them. I may have met them, but I don't know them off the top of my head. So the government says, you got to shut down. And they go, negative. They look at their buddies that are partners in this business and they go, no, bro, we're not doing that. Roger that. So they tell the government, hey, hug a nut. So the government goes, we don't understand what hug a nut means, but you're going to shut down. And they go, negative, we're not. So they get a lawyer. They go to a judge, and the judge says, you got to write a brief. So their lawyer writes a brief and says, we're essential. People have to protect themselves. Second Amendment is part of the Constitution. We need to be strong on this. And the judge goes, roger that. Okay, government, write your brief. And the government, now my understanding this is the Denver city government. It's nothing to do with Colorado, so whatever.
Yeah.
So they write a brief and they go, well, you can't be open because you only sell guns. Now, if you were like this company located at, 1325 Maple Street that sold other stuff and guns, then we'd let you stay open, but you can't be open because all you sell is guns. That's stupid, right? So what does the judge say? He goes, yeah, government, Bighorn Guns, you can stay open. Roger that. So they continue to sell guns and everybody's happy. 2 or 3 days later, guess where they're at? 1325 Maple Street, which I'm just making up that address. I don't know what the address is. They go to 1325 Maple Street. They walk into the Bass Pro place and they go, you got 15 minutes to vacate this premises. Well, guess what Bass Pro did? They vacated the premises. And then our government put chains through the handles of their door. Think about that. Just think about what's happening there, bro. They put chains. It wasn't like leave and we'll trust you. They put chains through the front handles of their door. Wow. And they said, well, we would have let you stay open except for you sell stuff other than guns.
This is the same area.
This is the same government. This is the same group of people that went to Bighorn Guns, and then they wrote a legal brief that said, if you sold other stuff like 1325 Maple Street or whatever street I said earlier, and then they went to that actual address to Bass Pro Shop and then shut them down. Dude, here's a problem. The rule should be this: if you're going to be a politician, you should have actually had a job and ran a business. And that business could be that you're a farmer or a rancher, or you run a company that sells T-shirts and coffee, or you sell slings for guns, whatever. But you've had a business where you know what it's like, and dealing with the government, how bad that can be. So, the positive note about this whole thing is that Bighorn Guns stayed open. NSSF was there trying to help those guys, and they've helped other people along the way too. The bad thing is Bass Pro Shop, and I understand why they did it. They probably didn't want to make a big thing in the news, but I hope that Bass Pro burns them down. I hope they burn Denver, Colorado to the ground. And they can go make more money because until it's legal to smoke pot there, those places are still open. We still got liquor stores open, but you can't go buy guns. Give me a frickin' break, man. Oh, wait, and if you carry a Bible, that's illegal too, because everybody knows that it's bad to go to church, so we're going to close down the places of worship too.
Well, I think that's the thing that frustrates me with it, is it seems so subjective, and the local municipalities have been able to interpret and then put their individual and personal spin on that interpretation. So the inconsistency, and trust me when I say this, I am a states' rights guy. Like, I am a true dyed-in-the-wool conservative when it comes to individual rights and states' rights. I think that decisions should be passed down to the lowest common denominator most of the time, and if you're not affecting someone else in a negative way, brother, it's on you. And I think that that's a double-edged sword for conservatives, because conservatives, when they ask for the federal government to intervene in local decision making, and especially when it's policy, what they're asking is federal authority to essentially trump the local municipality, and they're contradicting conservative values at some points, right? I think it's a double-edged sword when you continue to go back to the Fed and ask these decisions to be passed up to the Fed and ask the Fed to intervene. And when I say that, I understand where there has to be consistency, and I think that's where the Fed can be more effective in passing down clear and consistent measures that the local governments have to adhere to, and then reinforcing policy, especially when it comes to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You have to have the ability. Just because there's a pandemic going on doesn't mean that we just kind of scrap this piece of paper that established the country. That's not even, it's not legal. It's not ethically correct. There's nothing right in that course of action. Yeah. But I do find myself at odds at times with conservatives, because I'm like, hey man, you live in a hardcore blue socialist city, and are you surprised?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is this a surprise? I get it, but you live in this hardcore socialist, like San Francisco or Denver or some of these other places. And I've had this conversation with them. I'm like, be careful with asking the Fed for them to intervene on your local municipalities all the time when it comes to specific regulations, because there's going to be a time, and we saw this. I mean, I think it's fairly popular right now. We've seen the Fed intervene, and we've seen the Fed intervene on a wide variety of issues where we're like, this needs to be a local issue. So my point didn't really make much sense other than...
No, it does. I mean, it does. We don't want mob rule either. So we've got to walk that line. One of the biggest problems that I've seen is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And what needs to happen is the law-abiding citizen needs to stand up and be that squeaky wheel. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. Local law enforcement have got their hands full. And who's against local law enforcement? It's not the three of us. I can tell you that right now, because if an officer pulls me over, I'm like, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yes, sir.
Whatever. Yeah. But when it's the squeaky wheel and they're whining about how law enforcement acts, I get it. There's some law enforcement people out there that probably shouldn't be in that position. But by and large, they're really, really good people that are out there facing things that you and I don't want to face. So we need to support them. And in supporting them, we need to stand up for them. And when they start to come after these cops, we need to say, negative, that dude's my neighbor and he's a good guy or she's a good gal. I'm going to protect them because you don't know what they're going through. You go out there and deal with what they deal with for one day, and you would freak out. Not you, but they, little Susie Chapstick, AOC, or EIEIOU1, or whatever their names are up there. They're clueless, man. They're so clueless. And thank goodness at this time, we had a president that is actually standing up, some for our rights and actually putting out some data that I think has saved some lives. The hydroxyquine, that whole deal, I think that's been a good thing. And it's not the stuff that you put in your fish tank, like that lady that killed her husband.
And you shouldn't ingest Lysol.
That's such a stretch to begin with. Like however you land, center left, center right, far left, whatever. I doubt there's any far left people listening to this, but at the end of the day, it's such a stretch to blame the president for some people ingesting fish tank cleaner, and for news outlets to even put that in a story is so blatantly absurd. To sensationalize a statement and say the president is partially responsible for the death of these people because they ingested fish tank cleaner.
Yeah.
Like, what type of moron? And when I say that, I'm like, guys, we really have to kind of take this into consideration and say, if a person is willing to ingest something that is meant to clean their fish tank, do we really think that their brains were operating in a coherent manner, and you're going to blame that on the president? And out of 350 million people, for one person to interpret this, statistically, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah,
I think we're doing okay.
People are trying to blame him for the economy and for this. Yeah. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, if that's the case, then I think we got a good case for lynching, a few people up in New York, because they got more people dying because they won't listen to what he says. So there you go. I mean, it's ridiculous. But on the positive side, there's a lot of good things we can do during this time. I mean, like we talked about earlier, spend time with your family.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing. I mean, I've been able to spend more time with my kids and my grandkids than I've spent in a long, long time with them. And it's been very, very positive. Now, I'm going to tell you, sometimes they drive you freaking crazy, but you can go out and shoot your bow or forge a tomahawk, or, I mean, do something outside,
I've spent more time outside, and I think Logan has too. I mean, Logan went on essentially vacation for the first couple weeks, and I think we've just really tried, and I've tried very hard, which kind of leads me into my other piece of this, which is I've tried really hard just to say, listen, this is a really shitty situation for a lot of people. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were furloughed. A lot of people lost a ton of money in the stock market. This is really shitty. And there are people losing their lives because of a global pandemic. It's not just in America, it's overseas. This is a horrible situation that is extremely complex. Guess what? It doesn't get better if you continue to drill into the negative aspects of it. Yeah. It doesn't get better. And I was talking to my wife early on about this, where, she was very, very concerned. And I was like, why are we concerned? Like, this doesn't affect our lives right now. You can't imagine what the boogeyman is going to do. You have to deal with reality, right? You have to take the steps that mitigate your exposure and our children's exposure, and our company's exposure to the virus. Once you protect yourself against that, it's daily life, man. It is what it is. You turn your frown upside down, you go to work. And the other thing is we have 2 little kids. So when I don't want my 2 little kids to look back on this and think, my father and my mother were so stressed out, and they were watching the news, and they were glued to the television, and, they kept inside. It's like, no, man, we've been outside every day. My kids are catching lizards. Their feet are filthy all day long because they're running around.
We've been catching fish, smallmouth fishing.
Same.
Yeah.
We've been bass fishing, and we've been my 3-year-old's been learning how to do her pedal bike. I got my wife's had a bow for a couple years, but I got her a new traditional bow, at the start of this. It wasn't a massive investment. It was $90 for a new bow and 3 arrows and, a bunch of foam targets that we've had forever. I've been flipping the kettlebell around that I've had since 2006. I'm not breaking the bank, creating a luxury lifestyle for myself. I bought a $90 bow and a kettlebell that I'm flipping around on our content facility. But I'm spending a ton of time with my kids. And guess what? When I walk in the door, there's no talk of COVID. There's no talk of, the negative aspects of what's going on. It's like, kids, what do you want to do today? Because you don't have school. There's no school. Are you kidding me? I've been waiting for this opportunity for years.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to go to public school. I haven't wanted it since we put my kid into public school. And now my wife's like, my daughter's reading at a 3rd grade level. She's doing math probably at a 3rd or 4th grade level at this point.
See,
we work with her 2 hours a day.
Yeah, we could hang out now because I can read at the same level.
Yeah, she's doing math better than I can right now.
No, it's all a state of mind, and even I do the only people I feel bad for are two groups: those that catch this and it kills them.
Yeah. Yep.
And those that have lost their jobs. Man, that's just terrible that's happened. And we got to get back on our feet and get rolling here. I hope that we take a lesson from this, that Bill Gates is a douchebag, and then also that we need to get some of this out of China. And we deal with companies that are almost exclusively bringing their product from China. And what do we need to do to get them to change their mind and go somewhere else and do that? Or, I don't know.
But we started this, and I don't know, you and I have talked about it before, but we started company internally shifting away from overseas manufacturing 2+ years ago. I don't like overseas manufacturing. I don't like the quality control from over the phone and over a computer. I don't like, and it's not that, it's xenophobia. It's like, I want to employ Americans. Guess what? Because they're my community. They're part of my family. They're on the same team. We're all paying taxes and building roads and building infrastructure together. I want to do that. Like, I would prefer to pay a higher price for an American-made product at the same standard. I would prefer that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually take extreme issue with people that say, well, that's xenophobia, or you guys are nationalists or urban nationalists. Like, is there something wrong? Last time I checked, I'm an American. I've chosen at this point. I'm 43 years old. I've repeatedly volunteered to be an American. I could have had other options out there. Yeah. I want to live here because this is a great place to live. Yeah. I love this country. Why wouldn't I want to support it?
Yeah, and what would happen let's say instead of having 40 pairs of pants and 300 T-shirts and all this crap, if you had like 4 or 5 pairs of pants and 15 Black Rifle Coffee T-shirts and 4 VTAC T-shirts, and I can't say that our T-shirts are made in America, but they're printed in America. And then you could have American-made stuff and have stuff that's nice. Okay, it costs a little bit more, but I think we could bring that back. And I'm going to say something. I think we can. I'm going to say something controversial here because I want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah.
Do you put Chinese manufacturing and made in Mexico in the same breath?
In the same breath?
Do you put them in the same category? Because
no,
I don't. Because I feel like
I don't either.
Made in Mexico, they're our neighbor.
Yeah.
And I think we can help if we can give them some jobs. I guess it's to me, it's not just about making stuff outside of America. It's about making stuff in China. Mm-hmm. There's other places I think that we can have stuff made. Canada, I mean, I'm sure they make something. I don't know what they make.
Maple syrup. And
yeah.
moose stuff. stuff for your pet moose. I don't know. No, I love this conversation, Kyle, because this is the way that I think about it, especially because we import so much coffee from South America and in Mexico. And when I've been, when Logan and I were in Guatemala recently, we were talking about this as a national security issue, which is buying things from Mexico is a good thing. Creating jobs in South America, what that does is it helps decrease illegal immigration because it provides opportunity for employment and economic mobility through not only Mexico, but other South American countries. So I think it's our responsibility as Americans to not only support American jobs, but if we can support things that are happening within our hemisphere, we're actually directly contributing to to decreasing illegal immigration. And that also directly contributes to decreasing our tax liability because we're not spending billions of dollars on the border, clearing people and shipping them back. And I think if you're concerned with what's happening on the southern border, you should be concerned with what's happening in the southern hemisphere economy. I really do. I think that it is directly our responsibilities to say, if we can't manufacture it in the United States, where's the next place I need to be manufacturing? And I'd say, absolutely, let's keep it in this hemisphere because it directly contributes to the success of the country.
Well, I still hope we get some stuff rolling back in the U.S. And man, there's so many good people, and we can make it happen here. People are looking for jobs. Well, then, in our town alone, where I live. I live in little old America here. And when you drive to my house, you drive by the Levi's factory that's closed. Yeah. You drive by the YKK factory that's closed. Yeah. You came to Manchester and opened up your facility. That's awesome. And we could do more of that. My buddy Z-Man, so El Zita is opening Schumann barrels here in Centerville. So really? He's about up and running here shortly. So Schumann barrels are now going to be made within 5 miles of where I live. So that's going to be cool, and I think there's more places like that we can, there's more Americans that can do that kind of stuff. And even if it's something that causes you to have to hire folks, Kentucky, they had a sew shop that was about to be closed. My buddy went in there, bought the sew shop, and they're now making protective gear, masks as well as gowns and things like that. They're making it with the Tyvek like you would wrap your house with. That's the kind of material. There's another company that makes that stuff in Mississippi or Arkansas or something. So he started out, he needed like 10,000 of these suits, and he's sold several 100,000 of them now, made in America, made in Kentucky by Americans. And if you get offended by that, then sorry, man, go whatever hole you crawled out of. But if the hole has an address that says United States of America, you shouldn't be offended that we're trying to employ your neighbors. When you crawl out of your friggin' hole, look left and look right, pull on your skinny jeans, and you're going to see that there's Americans going to work here. That's not a bad thing. So I don't know. I don't know how we get by with, I got an iPhone.
Yeah. I think there's a happy state where, it is a national security issue, I think, to incorporate and empower more American manufacturing. I cannot agree with that statement more. But I also am not completely disagreeing with, canceling all overseas manufacturing. And, I definitely don't think that we should be encouraging and incentivizing trade agreements across the board and increasing manufacturing with states that directly spread negative, and if not only negative, but false negative propaganda against the United States within their country. I think there should be a direct economic consequence to that. If you're spreading negative anti-American propaganda within your country, I don't think we should be doing business with them, period. Yep. Like that should be an instant, you're done. We don't do business with you anymore. We can go to diplomatic channels if you want. But I don't think we should be lining the pockets of a country that spreads negative information, false negative information, like American, service members planted the virus within, Wuhan. I just wish we could be more proactive and substantive against taking very aggressive measures towards information like that, because you and I know the Chinese spread so much anti-American propaganda within their country.
Government spreads so much anti-American propaganda.
Yeah, you're right.
We should shut down portions of our government. I mean, really, It's the same thing. Nancy Pelosi, I saw she's got plenty of ice cream, but it's that was
very expensive ice cream, by the way, on a $25,000 refrigerator. Oh, hey, go into quarantine. Don't worry about it on your $30,000 or $50,000, $500,000 kitchen in fucking California. I'm so happy for these politicians that they're just so lucky and fortunate to have jobs that pay them millions of dollars a year. Oh, that's right. They don't. What was that statement? What was that statement? It was Truman that said, he said, if you get wealthy in politics, that means you're corrupt or something like that, right? He had a statement like, there's no way to get wealthy in politics unless you're corrupt. It's just not a possibility.
So have you ever read anything that Admiral Stockdale wrote?
No, I don't think so.
Dude. Can I frequency hop a little bit? So there's a book called The Philosophical Thoughts or something, Discussions of a Fighter Pilot by Jim Stockdale, Admiral Stockdale. You know who he was, and if you listeners don't, he was a prisoner of war in Hanoi for like 7.5 years. He also was a participant on several of the first missions that we conducted. One is the Tonkin, Gulf of Tonkin resolution thing, which was a bunch of BS that McNamara and LBJ spun up so that we could get involved in Vietnam. So it was a lie to begin with. It was a lie, That book, if you haven't, I got that from a guy that I was on the ground with in Somalia, one of the young Rangers. He was a lieutenant. Well, I was young then too. He was a lieutenant, guy named Perino. And he and I have become good friends here in the last couple years. And he retired from the military, and we were talking one day. He goes, I got to send you this book. And he sent me this philosophical thoughts from it. I'm thinking, dude, what is he trying to tell me here? So the other day I cracked into this book. I haven't taken this many notes from a book that I've read in a while, and it's well worth reading. But a lot of the things that we're talking about right now, he was dealing with as a prisoner of war, with our government, kind of letting him flounder there. And anyway, it's worth checking out, because I think you'll see some thoughts that were going on then for him while I think he was in solitary confinement for 4 years.
That is a long time.
Wow.
Now, so most of that, at least 2 or 2.5 years of that, I believe he was in leg irons.
Jeez.
So think about sitting in a concrete floor in leg irons for 2 years. For 2 weeks.
Right.
And now make that for 4 years. The guy, and he was trained as a philosopher before he went in there. And, he received the Medal of Honor for his actions on the ground there too. So, anyway, I read that. There's another book too that you ought to read, The Storm Before the Calm, which is a George Friedman book that just came out.
Yeah. I've got that in my reading list. Somebody else recommended that to me. I think it was George Peterson.
Yeah. So, Matt Busella, my buddy, we just put out a podcast here a couple days ago about the Battle of Shiloh. And my buddy, Matt Busella, who's a cop down in Florida, he helped me with Leadership in the Shadows. We were talking. He goes, I got this book and I read it. And then as soon as I finished reading it, I read it again. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You're stupid. If you read it once and you turn around and you read it right away again, there's something wrong with you. I read that book.
You're going to have to unpack Leadership in the Shadows for us. Like, give us your 3 minutes on Leadership in the Shadows, because that's
Well,
if the listeners don't know about it, I think they absolutely need to go check out Kyle's books.
I want to finish my thought because I don't want people to think Matt is a weirdo.
Right.
When I finished that book, I wanted to turn around and reread it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a history book that also has the future history of our country in it. It's really, that Storm Before the Calm was good. But so, Leadership in the Shadows. I read a book by Stephen Pressfield, Warrior Ethos.
Right.
And it was a book that you could read. You could read a chapter and then you could put it down, and if you picked it up 6 months later, you could get something out of it. So when I wrote Leadership in the Shadows, I wanted to make it a book like that. So basically the crapper reader, where you could sit down, pinch a loaf, and while you're doing that, you could read a chapter of Leadership in the Shadows, and then if you put it down. Now, everything does tie together, but every chapter is standalone.
Right.
And that sounds goofy, but you guys have, at least Logan's read it, I think. I don't know if you've read it, but
I have. I re-listened to it over the last Christmas break when I was home, and we get into it quite a bit in detail on your podcast, which is Team VTAC. But it's one of those mandatory reads, and you can burn through it super quick. I like how you outline things at the end of each chapter, and it's from an engagement standpoint. It's really interesting to hear how you include your own personal experiences woven into the overall concept of leadership.
Well, I've received some negative feedback on that book from some folks that said, well, it's not deep enough, and this is just like it's everything in there is just so simple, and he doesn't really go in depth. And it's like,
they've probably never heard of the KISS principle then.
Well, they're exactly the person that it's not meant for.
Right.
This is meant for a leader that's at our level. If you're going to be the president of the United States, I guarantee you can grab a couple of those principles and you can take them all the way up to that level of leadership.
Right.
However, I didn't write it for the president of the United States. I wrote it for the young Marine, the young Army corporal, the new business owner, the cop that's out there every day, and they're trying to make sense of how to lead people to do evil things to evil people.
Right.
That's what it's for. It's not for the CEO of Wachovia. I don't even know if Wachovia is still a bank, but I pulled out a bank that I don't like, so there you go.
Right.
I think it's one of those ones, like every private PFC E1 to E4 should be on the Marine Corps reading list, because within this book, it also teaches you how to be a good follower with the mindset that you're going to be a leader in the future. And it works back to a couple of these golden principles, like treat others the way you want to be treated. And there's a couple really good short exercises in there. You have that section about define leadership in one word. And then it becomes this exercise, this concept that...
What's your word, Logan?
I can't remember what I said last time. You put me on the spot.
Here's the thing. It can change though. And that's the important thing about that exercise. So what I ask is, what's one word, the most important leadership trait to you?
Oh yeah. No, I remember what I said. Yep. It was, and it was lead. So the concept that I always fell back on in my time in the Marine Corps was leadership by example, right? And I think if you're a living, breathing, walking, talking example of what you expect out of others, and you're it's a physical example outside of principles, like you're walking the walk instead of talking the talk, that was the thing that really came to my mind.
Yeah, my word, I always go back to credibility, but it's basically the same as the word you're saying. It's just a different word.
Right.
And what I like about credibility is it's earned. You don't just get credibility because you get put in a leadership position. But I think what some people forget is why we do that exercise. If you're in a leadership position, or if I'm in a leadership position, or Evan, it doesn't matter what our word is. It doesn't. What we worry about doesn't matter. It matters what the people that we're leading, what's their word? Because as a leader, we've got to lead them the way that they need to be led, not the way we want it done, because we're not the person being led. We're the leader. We have the responsibility of leading those people. And how are we going to do that? So I think it's important that we always understand that it's not about us. It's about those people that are going to make you successful. And that's the people that you lead. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a leader and you've got no people that are with you, you're not going to be a success.
Right.
There's no way. You can't do this on your own. Mm-hmm. So, be successful by understanding your people and seeing what they need so you can help them.
How are you implementing that now across VTAC with your customers and stuff? Because obviously, you have your podcast. What are the things that you're talking about to your customers, to the people that are, VTAC supporters?
Well, I've always tried to be very positive.
Yeah.
And I think that being positive, I don't attack people out there. Well, there's a few people like Malcolm Gladwell because he's a douchebag. But other than people that hate law enforcement or hate the military, then I will attack them because you're attacking my tribe.
Right. Yeah,
or anti-hunters, I will attack you because you're attacking my tribe.
Right.
But other than that, it's going to be a very, very positive thing. So when we get hundreds of emails from law enforcement, military, and people that tote guns around. Mm-hmm. And they say, what about this? How about that? Hey, I really enjoyed this. And I try to answer every one of those with a personal email. Now, do I write a big... do I go on and on and on? No, right. I don't. I say, hey, thanks for the email. I appreciate what you're doing, or I appreciate the thank you gave us. Hey, hang in there, stay in the fight. Just keep a positive mental attitude. And I think that's what a lot of our customers want and need is they're seeing negativity every day because they're a law enforcement officer. And I'm not saying that their leadership is negative. I'm saying that what they do it's a hard job.
Right.
So we always try to support those people no matter what it is. Every time I get a chance to go out and speak in front of people, I try to keep it positive. And I try to also remind them about history. And we talked about this, reading books, understanding history so they don't feel like this is the first time our country's been in this pandemic. The Spanish flu killed a whole lot more people than this thing's ever going to kill.
Right.
The battles that we're fighting. I mean, the Marines, you sing about it. The shores of Tripoli. That's counter-terrorists. That we were fighting terrorists back then. The Marines were fighting terrorism. So understand history and understand it so that we don't make the same mistakes, even though we continue to make those same mistakes. And I think that's what I try to inspire people to do. Logan, you asked me something right as the recording went off, and you asked me about the reading books during the...
Yeah, whether or not, your reading pace has increased or stayed the same throughout quarantine.
I would say it's stayed about the same. I read a lot of books at one time, so I have a book that I read before I go to bed. I have a book that I read in the morning when I get up while I'm having a cup of Berserker blend there. And then I have books that I listen to on Audible. And so currently I've been reading a lot. I've been reading some heavy-handed books. I grabbed these while we were breaking there. So that's Herman Wouk. Is everything backwards?
No.
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
It's backwards to me, but I guess
and
that's...
And this episode is on YouTube in case you're listening to
it. Yeah, so Herman Wouk, so the Winds of War, I just finished this last night. This is a really interesting book because what it does is it takes the primary character, Victor Henry, and he's a Navy dude. He's not a SEAL, just a normal Navy cat. And he goes throughout the history leading up to World War II, and it's his family. So like his one son is in Poland when Warsaw gets overrun, and then this guy is in Berlin and he goes to meet Hitler, and then he ends up meeting FDR, and he ends up getting assigned to a ship in Pearl Harbor, and he finally shows up, and guess what? His ship gets sunk during the attack on Pearl Harbor before he even gets to take charge of it. His son marries a Jewish gal from the United States, but she's in Italy, so we get a view of what's going on to the Italians with Mussolini. it's just a fascinating book. And all the historical stuff is correct. And a lot of the idiosyncrasies about these leaders when he meets them, you know, this never really happened, but how those people acted is a true fact. Another book was The Storm Before the Calm. You guys, that's George Friedman, who's a great writer. Thoughts of a Philosophical Fighter Pilot. I haven't finished this, but I've been taking, I mean, this thing is filled with notes that I've taken to myself about that. And then, of course, Jack Carr, Savage Son.
Yeah.
That douchebag. No, Jack Carr, I mean, I got to tell you, he pisses me off because I'm not into fiction. And then this guy, he writes so well that I've got to read the next book. And this book, his first books were good. This book is unbelievable. And when he does the torture scene.
I was telling Evan about that yesterday, actually.
The torture scene, I couldn't piss straight for like 2 days because of that torture scene. He's a phenomenal writer. And some people, I think, are not going to like his writing because it's so real.
Right.
And I think that can be bad for some people because they don't understand that what he's writing, these descriptions of guns and what they're doing, it's real. Now, I'm going to let you in a little secret. The main character there, James Reese, is that his name?
Yeah.
So when you read this book, he's become like a serious connoisseur of wine and all that. He actually goes gay in the next book. He actually becomes the warrior princess.
Yeah.
And he has a love affair with a guy that's running a major coffee company in America. Anyway.
You know, the funny thing is Jack came down to San Antonio and he spent a few days down here with us. He spent a full half a day with me, and I had a little coffee lab here at my house in San Antonio. And we went through all these different aspects of coffee, just like, you know, why does it matter? I roasted some coffee on the stove. So I took some green bean. I fired up our gas stove, got out a frying pan, roasted coffee, and then showed him the difference between what was happening in the frying pan and what comes out of a regular roaster. And I explained to him the temperature difference, and we cupped a gallon of coffees, you know, wide variety of espressos and pour overs. And he was amazed that I could, that I had that much information in my head, because he didn't think that I could carry. He didn't think the hard drive up here had the capacity to carry more than about 4 sentences that I could string together.
Yeah.
And dude, he's like, man, I had no idea. But when he was doing research for his book, that's what he was doing. He was talking to me about coffee, and he's just a phenomenal guy. I mean, he's one of those guys that when you spend time with him, he's positive. He maintains a network of positive friends too, right? Yep. So he doesn't have that negative psychological baggage of, you know, a bunch of people weighing him down. He has a active network of positive, productive people that are reinforcing another positive narrative all the way through. And he and I spent a lot of time talking just about that. He lives there in Utah, so we actually get to see him a little bit more than we see you. But he's a phenomenal writer. We did an interview with him last week,
episode 14.
Whenever it was, we talked about the book and stuff. He sent me pictures of the bear hunt that he went on in Siberia. Yeah. And he talked about that hunt on the podcast.
Yeah.
Dude, talk about my sphincter was getting tight when he was talking about that thing.
Shut. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Old Russian shotgun that he just had dumped into his lap. And he's going after a monster. It was a monster, a huge bear. And he's crawling through the brush with something that he doesn't even know will fire. It woke me right up. I didn't need any coffee. It woke me right up. I was like, okay, dude, you got my attention.
Well, what's interesting to me is that we've seen his, I don't want to say evolution, because I don't believe in evolution. I would say his growth as a writer. Mm-hmm. And it's not just him. There's other people that I know that have grown because you got to write to become a better writer.
That makes sense.
His latest book, it's nothing like the first. I mean, the first book was really good. I was impressed. This book it's amazing. I mean, his ability has come so far because he's actually been polishing his craft by writing book after book after book. And I would say that, guys like Brad Thor, Brad Taylor, those guys are both friends of mine too. It's the same thing that's happened to them. Brad Taylor was in the unit, good dude. Yeah. He was a gut eater, wasn't enlisted, but good guy. You know where the gut eater thing comes from?
Well,
like, you've hunted prairie dogs.
Yeah.
So when you shoot a prairie dog, I was out there and I'm like, man, I whacked this prairie dog. And he's like, no, he goes down. He's doing this kicking with one leg. Yeah. And his buddy runs over and grabs him and starts pulling him back to his fighting position. And I'm thinking, prairie dogs are heroic. Like, they're going to pull their buddy back. And then you know what I realized? He was pulling him back because he was going to eat him. So much like officers in the military, they're gut eaters. They would pull each other back to the fighting position just so they could eat their own. So that's where the term gut eater comes from, if you've heard me say that. When I had my retirement, one of the officers was like, okay, before we're going to let you retire, you have to tell us about what a gut eater is. And then there was another story they made me tell too. But no, Jack he's awesome. And I called him the other day, actually just yesterday. I had a little leadership struggle here recently and fought through that. And I feel like I made the right decisions, but the outcome was affected one of his buddies. And I called him just to tell him, hey man, I just wanted to let you know straight from me, here's what happened. And I wasn't trying to sugarcoat it. I just told him exactly what happened. And he was very appreciative of that. He's like, yeah. And it was funny because some of the comments he made to me were exactly what I would have said. He gets it, man. He really gets it. And, anyway, he's a good dude. He was actually headed, he told me he could have never done what he did with his latest book if it wasn't for SIG and Black Rifle Coffee. Because you guys caused him to just crush it. Now, the thing is, it's not like you're supporting somebody that when they get the book, they're going to go, oh, great, Evan told me to get this book, and this is a piece of crap.
Right.
Well, luckily I got it because I could use it during the COVID to wipe my butt with. You're supporting a guy that when somebody reads his book, they're going to love it. They're absolutely going to love what they get. But he crushed it, and he absolutely gives you and Sig credit for that. So
I don't know if it's due, but I mean, I've talked to him about this because I'm like, hey man, you're a good guy. He is. He's a great guy. He's a great human being. So as you just mentioned and Logan just mentioned, right? He's leading by example by being a great human being.
Yep.
And when you mentioned you're in the same way of you have to lead by example, and I think was it integrity? Was that what was your credibility? Sorry. So he has credibility. He has integrity in his work. He has a level of detail that's quality, and all of those things combine to make a person that it's ultimately easy to support that in their endeavor, because you want to encourage those types of people succeeding, because that's a force multiplier, right? It's super easy. And so we were kind of talking about it. He's like, hey, thanks a lot. I'm like, man, you did all the work. Yeah. All I did was just encourage somebody that's already put in all the fucking hard work. That's super easy for me. Yep. my gosh, man, like you did all the work. I did nothing in this entire equation. I did nothing. We leveraged our social media platform and and talked on a podcast. Like, come on, man. You built a lifetime of integrity and service and a quality product. Look at that guy.
Trigger wanted to get, she wanted to get Trigger. Look up here, right here. Look up here. She's like,
I love that dog.
I'm out.
I love that dog.
Anyway, he's a stellar dude, and like you said, it's easy to want to promote him because he's a good cat. And man, we
need more human beings like both you and him.
I don't know if you can handle any more of me because I smell bad. But hey, I've been writing poetry. I told you I've been writing poetry.
Well, you also told me the last time we talked you were going to dip your toe in fiction too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fiction.
Where's Kyle Lamb's fiction book?
All of the writing is done.
Is it?
It's just being put into the right order now because I've got to get everything to match until everybody comes together for the final hoorah. I must tell you that I wrote it as a fiction and several things in my book have come true.
Seriously?
Which are that's kind of cool. People are going to be like, oh yeah, look at this. Just like this. He got that idea from here. And it's like, well, I just happened to write about it, and now some of the stuff is happening. So it's interesting. I've been working on that, and then I've got two book projects I'm working on right now. One is a Christian book about Christian warriors from the Bible, and me embellishing those stories to make them, make the battle between David and Goliath better, more graphic.
Right.
David and Bathsheba, to make that story talk about that, because that's probably the best, to me, that's one of the best leadership or lack of leadership stories from the Bible. So yeah, I've got both of those books I'm working on them, and, I don't know when they're going to be available. I wish I could tell you, but it's not my priority. It's just something I'm doing. I really enjoy it. So I continue to work on them.
I think you do have some credit. I think you do have some credit coming your way for a combination of reasons, which is one, you were probably the one of the first guys in the firearm space to start putting out good instructional material on YouTube. I think you might have been one of the first guys to really start programming great instruction and propagating that to the community early on. When I was an instructor, for the couple years that I taught, I watched most of your videos, and I can't tell you how many drills I took. When I say ripped off from you, I was teaching government service, so I wasn't ripping it off.
Well, no, that's what we want, though. See, that's the thing. That's what it's for. Yeah. We get a lot of calls from guys that are writing manuals right now for the M17, and they're like, can we get permission? I'm like, permission? You use everything you want. When I put it out there, it's for everybody to use. I want people to become better. That's why we do what we do. I don't need credit. I need you to go out and win the fight. That's all we need.
And you put out fantastic material. Your material today that you still put out is fantastic. I think when you revolutionized what people were doing in the instruction category, as far as the level of experience that you had, where you had come from, what and whom you were teaching, that combined elements of those things. I don't know how many guys you have helped throughout the years and inspired to go out and become better instructors, to serve their communities in an honorable and professional way. I have no idea how many people that is. Statistically, I think it'd be really hard to even kind of come to a number. But you are the guy that started a ton of this stuff. To your credit, you've done a fantastic job of maintaining a humble demeanor. I would say the one discredit that you have in that is some of your videos, your early videos, you come off as kind of a really serious, dry, instructor, whereas like if you ever meet Kyle and go to one of his courses, oh man, that's because I was watching your videos, but then when I met you, I kind of expected you to be a dick.
Yeah.
I really did. I kind of expected you to be a dick. I'm like, man, that guy's like the nicest guy he's like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And you're super happy and fun to be around. But your videos initially, they didn't capture your true personality. So I would say that's not necessarily
too. I mean,
really?
you're nervous. I filmed all those myself. It was me and another dude. We set up all the cameras, and then I'd run in there and, how do I look? Okay, now we're going to go. It was stupid. It was just stupid. But there's some really good, and not everything that I taught then, I don't teach everything quite the same. I mean, I try to keep moving on and getting better and better. But yeah, it is really funny. I don't take myself real serious because there's a time to be a dick and there's a time to take yourself serious. And this isn't it. So, yeah.
And you're still doing courses up at SIG Academy, right?
Yep. Still doing stuff at SIG and traveling the country doing that. Although, like I said, the quarantine has changed my views on a few things. I am having so much fun being at home, hanging out with my wife. We have a lot of fun, and now we're working together on some of these projects. She's making sheaths and stuff for knives that I'm making, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, we're still doing that. We're still a lot of leadership seminars, and whatever I got to do. And every now and again, we stop by Black Rifle Coffee, and we usually do that when Evan's not there, so we can have some fun. Because it's no fun when Dad is there, you know. It keeps us in line. But
I'm no fun. Yeah. I think the funny thing is I was talking to I went bow fishing again for the second time, because my first time I ever went bow fishing was with Kyle, and we were right down the street from his house. And so Kyle and I and Richard Ryan, and this is why everything went wrong, because Richard was with us. But
Richard is like, he needs help, doesn't he? All the time. Yeah.
We did that entire night. So Kyle and I went bow fishing. First time I've ever gone. He was a gracious host. So we loaded up the boat, went out there, got the floodlights out. It was super fun. We were having a blast. Richard was there to film. Kyle and I do what we do and film everybody, right? So we go down the river. So we go down the river quite a ways. What do you think? 2 miles?
Couple miles, yeah.
Yeah, couple miles. And we took in a rock, and the rock got jammed on the propeller, right? Is that what happened?
It's an impeller because it's a jet
or an
motor.
impeller. Yeah.
That rock was it was about the size of a silver dollar and about a quarter of an inch thick, and it was perfect in the impeller. And we were shut down river.
Shut down river. And so we were pulling the boat back, and Kyle had the trolling motor just pegged on the front, and I'm like pulling this boat up with the line. And I thought I was like, this is going to make incredible content, because one, you and I were joking around the entire time, like not one time where we
fish were jumping out by us, like these fish that are you can't even see in the camera because I can't get the right. They're big fish. They're jumping. We're like, and the only fish we got that night in the boat,
they jumped in the boat. Yeah, it was like slapstick. You and I were. It was just like you and I were slapstick. None of the audio. The audio didn't get saved because Richard had not done any of the audio work or whatever. So Kyle and I are out there. I'm like, this is going to be such a cool piece of content. The entire time I'm like, this trip could not have gone better. The two of us shooting fish. No audio. It could not have gone better.
You know what the nickname for a guy named Richard is, right?
I got one.
Douchebag.
Blue Falcon.
Blue Falcon.
Oh, my goodness.
But talk about, man, we had a great couple days out there because you and I shot at the range. Like your house is, your compound is awesome. You got your range right down there. You didn't have a forge at the time, I don't think.
No.
You didn't have it, did you?
No.
Where's it? Where do you have that set up?
In the big brown barn.
Okay.
Yeah, we put it in there, but we're building, like I said, we're building a building just for that. And it's going to be cool because I'll be able to have everything set up and just walk in and start working. Now I've got to move stuff around. And
Did you get your turkey yet?
No.
You got turkeys out there?
Yes.
On your property?
There's a really good tom in our front yard, down by the pond. But that's in the green zone. And Melinda's like, you can kill coyotes, armadillos, possum. All that can be shot there.
Right.
But you're not allowed to kill deer or...
Oh, he's in the safe space?
He's in the safe space.
Oh, man.
I've been watching him bang female turkeys down there. It's kind of a turkey pornography going on. They're laying eggs already. We have found some eggs.
Have you?
Yeah.
Just a little dinner entertainment.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I have heard one up over on the other side of Grinder Switch. And I'll tell you, man, and this is going to sound completely terrible coming from me. This year, I have not been feeling the turkey hunting, and I'll tell you why. I have been foraging like a madman. It is when I have a minute that I can do something, I walk from my office over to where I've got the forge set up, and I'm either making a handle. I've made some. I don't know if I've sent you some of the other pictures, but some of the knives that I've forged, I've put curly maple handles on them. I made some curly maple handles. I burned that one that I showed you the picture of there, or Melinda burned it and finished all that. I've just been too busy forging, and then Melinda's been making me work in the warehouse because our business is up significantly right now, which normally doesn't happen when something like this takes place, but we're getting crushed right now. And maybe I don't know. I'm not sure why that is, but it's good. We're shipping product like crazy. So yeah, it's good. I've been doing a lot of podcasts with other folks. And then our podcast has been doing really well too. I decided to start putting one out every single week, and I've been doing that now for a couple months.
Nice.
And it's really gotten our numbers to go crazy for us.
That's Team VTAC?
Yeah, the Team VTAC podcast is doing really well. And like I said, now that I'm writing poetry, I'm probably going to be a sensation when that poetry gets released.
Without a doubt.
Are you going to put out a book of poetry?
I don't know if I'm going to do a book because right now I've only written 2 poems. So, but they're good. I mean, they're really good. I could. If you want a sampling, I'm willing to give you that.
Please do.
Yeah,
so
I would love it.
My first one is called "The First Time." Are you ready for this? I don't know if you can handle this.
So.
I'm ready, man.
The sky was dark. The moon was high. We were alone. Just her and I. How do you like it so far? Are you digging it?
Yeah,
You're okay.
Digging it.
So
Blood is flowing.
yeah. So we were alone, just her and I. I trembled and shook and felt her heart, and then I slowly spread her legs apart. And with my courage, I did my best. I placed my hand upon her breast. Logan, you're digging it, right?
Yeah.
I knew she was ready, but I didn't know how. It was my first experience at milking a cow. Okay, I'm lying. I did not write that poem. But I actually, if you want to, do you want to hear a poem I wrote?
I do. I do.
Now this one, this might be a little tough for me to get through.
Okay.
But, and I think that you with your relationship with your dad, this is kind of written for you. So, my dad was born in 1911, and he died back in 99. So he was 88.
Wow.
88 years old when he passed away. All right, so this is one I actually did write.
Okay.
I'd pay money to have my dad sitting across the fire from me. The Lord gave him a wonderful life and called him back to thee. He taught me most when I was young to swing a rope and shoot a gun. He worked all day even when the day was long. I miss you, Dad, now that you're gone. Always reciting the village blacksmith, his favorite poem. The church was full to capacity when he called you home. Dad, there is so much I didn't say. Guess we'll have to wait until another day. You were a man of honor, work and prayer. You'd made me think. You made me toil. You were always there. Get on, boy. He can't throw you. You're in the mud. Breaking horses was in his blood. Dad always said, break the horse, but not their spirit. And if I sit real still and think of you, I can still hear it. Making hay, tending crops, and feeding cattle, no other man could take your place preparing me for battle. I miss you, Dad, and there's so much I want to say. I missed an opportunity back then, so waiting on the day. When Jesus finally tells me it's time, I'll drop what I'm doing, knowing things will be fine. I'll sit across the fire in heaven above, looking into the flickering face of the dad that I miss and love. How's that? What do you think?
That's really good, man. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So there you have it.
That is beautiful.
So I think what my point there is, with that, I was thinking about how lucky I am right now because I'm able to see my son a bunch.
Yeah.
And now my daughter a bunch too. And my grandson and my granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
You with the situation you've got with your dad, you know, it's something that I think you're lucky because you've been able to spend more time with your dad and do a lot of stuff. And it's something, like I said, I joined the Army and then I just kind of didn't look back. Yeah. And I'd see my dad when I went back on leave or whatever, but I never, just literally, I told somebody, and where this came from, I was talking to some dudes and we were talking about our dads, and I said, I'd give $1 million to be able to talk to my dad for just a couple hours, you know what I mean? And I think that's what we don't want that to happen. We don't want to get to the point where you have regrets like I wish. And my dad and I had a great relationship, but I just think there's a lot of questions. My dad was around before TV was invented.
Right.
His family bought one of the first cars. You know, it was many years after the cars had been available, but they farmed with horses. They finally got a car. And just think about the stories that he could have told if I just would have known the right stories to ask. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, so be thankful for your families. You're in quarantine. Ask those questions of your parents and your kids and make it a special occasion, because it is. I mean, every day that you can be with them in quarantine it's awesome. You may want to kill them by the end of the day, but go outside or read a book or beat on a piece of metal for 5 minutes, and then you'll be ready to get back in the fight, you know? So.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Kyle, it's always good to talk to you, man. I really appreciate you spending the time with us. It was a great podcast.
You know, I know you were let down because you thought the story, the poem was going to be about you, Evan.
Yeah.
So I'll write one for you. I might have to write a book of poetry, warrior poetry. You know?
Yeah, you can write it about a guy that has to work 5 times harder than he should because he's fucking too dumb to figure it out the first time.
That's good though, because by the time you get through it, you have mastered it.
Yeah, that's funny, man. All right, well, go to VTAC, check out Kyle Lamb. Go check out Team VTAC over on his podcast. Anything and everything this man puts out is just about as good as it's going to get out there as far as subject matter expertise, leadership, wisdom, just daily thoughts, rants, and history. Can't say enough good things about Kyle. He's a great friend, great human being, great American. Thank you very much, Kyle.
All right, roger that. Thanks for having me.